Hello and welcome. My name is Wendy Torres, and I'm delighted that you're joining us for our journey into course redesign with OERs. Before we begin, let me tell you a little bit about our program. Coppin State University is located in downtown Baltimore, and the majority of our students are first-generation students. As such, our college admin was really pushing for our faculty to use OERs in their courses. The problem was a lot of our faculty didn't know where to start or how to even start looking or designing their own OERs. So we provided an opportunity for them to learn how to do this. We provided a summer workshop professional opportunity for our faculty, and we chose summer deliberately because summer tends to be the time when most of our faculty are less busy. Participants had to engage with all the interactive content over 3 days given virtually, and each session lasted for 2 hours. If the participants completed all the requirements, they received a certificate of completion as well as a digital badge. What did our journey entail? Let's find out. We started by giving our participants a pre-test, and this pre-test was just to see what our faculty knew about OER and what they didn't. This pre-test consisted of 8 questions, and you can have a copy of it at the end of this presentation when I give the link. Our pre-test yielded some interesting results. It showed us that our faculty really needed clarification about what is considered OER and what is considered open access. So that led us to a conversation about what is considered OER, and typically OERs follow the 5 R's of reuse, revise, remix, redistribute, and retain. If what they're sharing does not use those 5 principles, it is not an OER. Then we talked about the different kinds of licenses associated under Creative Commons, and we talked about under those licenses what is considered OER and what is not. Then we talked to them about the different kinds of courses that they could offer their students. One being a fully OER course, meaning that everything is openly licensed and follows the principles of the 5 R's. The next one is OER low cost, where the materials are openly licensed, but there might be some add-ons that are associated with the cost. However, we had to explain to them that offering a low-cost textbook is not necessarily an OER, especially if that textbook has copyright restrictions. That is not an OER low-cost option. Then we talked to them about Z courses, which means zero cost to students. So the students could use the content at no cost to them. However, there might be a cost associated with the materials, such as a subscription to a database. And so we told them if they're offering that kind of course, they can, but they have to be very clear and indicate that that is not an OER course. So once we got our faculty to understand what OERs are, we had them thinking about how do they want to redesign their course. So I challenged them. I said, instead of redesigning one entire course, let's start off with one unit or one module, instead of trying to redesign the entire course at once. And I had them think about why they want to actually redesign that particular unit, and then they were supposed to fill out a redesign plan so that we could help them as they start looking for OERs. The redesign plan asked 4 questions. Why would they want to redesign? What were the learning outcomes from that particular model or unit? What materials are currently being used for the unit, and what is the current cost to the student? So we had our faculty do that, where they actually kind of evaluated and thought about a specific unit that they wanted to redesign instead of trying to approach it as I'm going to redesign the entire course. And then after our faculty did that, we actually provided them with a resource for finding OER and open access materials. So our college has created what we call an OER open access repository, where our faculty can go on and find open educational resources, either general ones or by discipline. It's a public website, and when they get onto that website, they will see several options. One says general OERs, so this is where they can go and find some general OERs and some by some reputable sources. But then we also wanted to break it down by discipline. So I encouraged my faculty during this session. I told them, find your particular discipline and find that page and see if you can find any particular OER for that particular unit that you are thinking about redesigning. I told them don't look for OERs for the entire course, just for that one particular unit. And so our faculty took the time to start exploring this particular OER page, and they started bookmarking some resources they felt were important to them. With our faculty, we stressed to them that they weren't doing a deep dive for these materials. They were just sort of putting the materials away and bookmarking them because we were going to talk about how to evaluate them the next day for the workshop. So what adventures awaited us on day 2? Let's find out. To begin our adventure, we started our faculty off with a review quiz from Quizizz.com. Quizizz.com is an interactive website that allows you to make interactive quizzes with your audience. We shared the quiz with our audience, and our faculty participated and answered the questions, and then we reviewed the content to make sure that the faculty had a clear understanding of the content that we shared before on the previous day. A copy of this quiz is available at the end of this presentation. After our engaging quiz, we dove right back into the materials that we had been exploring from the previous session. From our previous session, our faculty were exploring and trying to find specific materials for their redesign plan, for that particular unit or module that they were thinking of redesigning. However, our faculty were not doing a deep dive when they were curating these particular sources. So for this session, we actually shared with them multiple resources for evaluating the particular source that they're going to be using for redesign. We had them check out every single one of the rubrics and checklists, and then they commented on how appropriate the checklist would be for them to use for implementation, or how they would adapt it to fit their needs, because all these checklists and rubrics were Creatively Commons licensed, so they could be adapted and tweaked to fit their needs. Our faculty also had a lot of questions about where can they get grants and guides for how can they adapt OER in their courses, so I provided them with the Open Education website from hewlett.org, which provides grants for professors for creating and curating open educational resources. Because Coppin is Maryland-based, I also pointed them to the MOST website, MOST standing for Maryland Open Source Textbook Initiative, which is an organization that actually provides mini grants to professors for creating and making OER content in their courses. I also provided them with 2 open textbooks that provide adaptation, guides, and best practices for using and curating OER content. What exciting things do we do for our final day? Let's find out. We started our day off with a fun Family Feud review game to review the content from the previous sessions. After that, we had our faculty fill out an OER implementation plan. This plan is our guide for the IT department. The faculty had to indicate their goals and objectives and the barriers and the challenges that they wanted to address, and particularly their project timeline. The project timeline would help us direct their individual project based on whatever they needed. So if they stated they wanted to have this OER by fall, we would make sure that that would happen. If they stated they wanted it by spring, we would make sure that that would be ready by spring. After that, our faculty were really curious about how they can make their own OER sources. So we introduced them to 3 online resources that they could use to create OERs. One was OER Commons, the other one was Marlowe's Content Builder, and the last one was Pressbooks. Our faculty engaged with all 3 to see which one they preferred and which one they liked to use for their particular project. After the workshop, all our faculty members are now receiving individualized attention based on what they have indicated in their project plan. Some of our faculty have already redesigned their units for this particular semester, but the majority of them are waiting till spring to make sure that everything is ready. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you'd like a copy of this presentation, the URL is tinyurl.com/opened2021. If you want a text version of this, it's tinyurl.com/OER Journey.